Hey, what's going on, guys? Hey, we apologize for that small technical difficulty we ran into. For some reason, Dr. Asha's audio was not coming across on any of the platforms. I appreciate everybody tuning in and paying attention and letting us know. Hey,
Hey,
Asha.
Steve.
Hey, so we're going to try this. Just we're going to do an end around on our audio. So hopefully
Okay.
people will rejoin here in just a second. I was just letting everybody know that we had a small technical difficulty on the audio. We're not sure why Dr. Asha's audio is not working, but if you're joining the live stream right now, Asha is going to sing medley of songs to get audio levels just to make sure that they're working.
Really? Oh, wow. No, I'm actually my backup is going to sing first. And,
Where's Math?
yeah, yeah.
Is
Oh
he in the
God,
background?
no.
Because I'm not singing. There's no way in hell.
There is no way. No, no, no. We don't want that.
Yeah. Hey, so let us know. Oh, sweet, John. Can you, yeah, we're back. I don't know what the
Hey,
deal is, but
great.
yes, thank you guys for your patience.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for letting us know. It's so rare that we get people to comment on the live stream, so we may have been silent the whole time. I have
Who
no,
knows?
I have no, I have no idea. So anyway, we're gonna start this. We're gonna start this over. Oh, well, we can't do the intro because we went to a different platform. So
No, exactly.
can you sing our theme song, Asha? Let's just for sound
No,
level.
can't do that either. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I'm not very talented. Just so for those that are joining us.
Man, oh man. This is what happens when we go live. This is why I didn't want to ever go live stream because you
Yes,
just gave me a compliment that we had all the technology lined up
you
and
did.
going and going good and
Well,
then look
Steve,
what
you figured it
happens.
out. You figured it out. See, we're here.
Yeah, well, I think we have a problem with our eCam hookup. But anyway, so
Okay.
hey, Shannon, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. John, thank you for joining us as well. Hopefully,
Thank you.
Vince comes back. We got a few folks. This episode of Conversations with Asha and Steve has actually kicked off quite an interesting
Mm-hmm.
bit of dialogue. And
It
oh,
has.
John says, hey, can she sing somewhere over the rainbow?
Oh my God. In Israel style. You really
Okay,
don't want that,
yeah,
John? I
come
gotta dig.
on. I like John. John's got good contribution here, and I think great suggestions. So, a one and a two, and
Hmm.
go.
Steve, here's the thing, John. I'm going to make a deal with Steve. Once he actually releases a twerking video, which I don't know if you guys saw one of his posts recently that he was going to be twerking on TikTok, then I will consider I will consider that.
Why are you going to do me like that? That's just a flat out lie. Lies, lies. If I
Oh, I'm
if
sorry.
I
Did you say
twerked, I
something
would
different?
actually throw my hip out. I'm pretty damn sure. Oh great! Oh
Oh,
great! I said damn. Now I said it twice. Now we're gonna get banned from LinkedIn. Fantastic. Thank you, Asha.
thank you, Steve.
As if my life is not already complicated enough. Trying to get us reacquainted with our LinkedIn account
Oh
is not going to be
no.
good. So anyway, so apparently we cannot compel Asha to sing today, which is
No.
unfortunate because I think we're going to talk about mental health, and that would definitely get us on the right path for mental health today to actually hear. But yeah,
Yes.
John, John says, "Okay, you convinced me. I'll pass. It's good."
Yeah. There you go. Oh,
So,
oh, oh.
okay, so welcome to Conversations with Asha and Steve. I am your host, Steve Harper, and with me, as always, is my amazing co host, and we can now hear her in stereo,
Yes.
Dr. Asha Prasad. Asha, how are you today?
I'm doing good, Steve. I'm doing good on this fabulous Friday.
That's good.
Yeah.
I am not doing good because you stressed me out when nobody could hear you. They thought you were a mime. And
Well,
now
I'm
we
glad
want,
that people were here to tell us that that was not
yes.
that was happening.
Maybe
So
that's the
thank
reason
you.
in our previous live streams nobody was commenting because they couldn't hear you, and they're like, "I don't want to listen to that guy." Geez, I'm out.
No.
So, what are we talking about today? And, I know what we're
Yeah.
talking about today, but let's introduce the topic. And, this kicked off a fair amount of comments early on when we posted that we were going to be talking about this as a subject. But what is the focus of our conversation today?
So we're talking about, what to do when an employee comes to you and needs a mental health day. And, this came from a listener. I also have a client that's dealing with this right now in his company where people are just, they're they're feeling burnt out, they're requesting mental health day.
Mm-hmm.
How do you categorize that? Is it a sick day? Is it absence? You know, how do we have a protocol for that? And is it really something that is necessary? How are we going to handle it? Because it's something new, I think, that's really showing up more and more.
Yeah.
Steve, don't be clicking on too many buttons. I'm telling you right now.
I'm just trying to find our overlay because we're on a different platform than we normally are. So sorry about that. But anyway, not to interrupt you because, you know.
No, but when we posted about it, you know, it is a very, very important subject matter to talk about. And we had a lot of people make comments. I want to share. I want to start. Let me just get my, let me pull up what the comments were. I just wanted to mention that we appreciate people already engaging before this live, so that way we could get a sense of where, you know, what people are doing, how they're dealing with this as well. So Mike Smith mentioned, I would send them a $50 gift card and tell them to enjoy Mental Health Day on me. As always, the door is open for them to talk about anything that might be stressing them out. I think it's great that they recognize a little break might help them. Your reaction to the situation might be part of what they are looking for. Does my leader trust and support me if I need this?
I like that. Yeah.
That's a really, really great one.
It really is.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, do you want me to read a few more?
Well,
Steve?
yeah, actually, John just made a comment, very interesting to understand what a mental health day would be if it isn't counted as a sick day or vacation. So how this topic was introduced originally was, I believe you had a client that kind of posed this, right? So,
yes, exactly.
We have corporate policies that say this is, you know, you've either got to take a vacation day or a sick day, but and how this all came about, and I think it's in follow-up to the conversation that we had a few episodes back where we were talking about Simone Biles and Naomi Osaka sort of publicly, you know, coming to terms with and sharing that they were not comfortable moving forward with, you know, their athletic competitions, you know, and Naomi, it was withdrawing from the French Open, not participating in Wimbledon, and obviously having some challenges most recently at the U.S. Open. Simone Biles actually pulling out of several events at the Olympics, and both of them recognizing that at that moment that their mental health was more important than than the athletic competition that they were participating in. So we had that conversation a few weeks or a few episodes back that really kicked off some really interesting offline conversations. But then I think your client kind of posed this like, hey, is this the new thing? What do we have to deal with as leaders? How do we apply it? And kind of like John said, you know, does a mental health day, you know, what would it be if it wasn't counted as a day or a vacation?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, my client came to me and we were talking in one of our coaching sessions about the fact that he had 2 employees of his in the last 2 or 3 months approach him about they needed a timeout, that they were feeling very overwhelmed. You know, things were starting to get back into the groove of kind of like pre-COVID, not completely, but you know what I mean? Like getting back, and the busyness and just the stress levels were getting really, really high. And that's where this question came from. You know, how do I handle this? What exactly is it? And, you know, the way that I started talking to him about it was that, okay, a mental health day, to me, the way that I view that is that we usually think of a sick day as if we're physically ill, you know, back pain, headache, stomach, whatever it is. But does that not also count to emotional and mental well-being as well?
Yeah.
Well, whether you want to categorize it as a sick day, I mean, I don't know. I kind of think that maybe a new category needs to be created.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. You know, John just made a comment on LinkedIn, which we appreciate, John. Seems to depend on whether the company is a new school, unlimited time off, which we're seeing on a lot of, companies, especially in the tech industry, or a company that counts Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 strictly as either present, absent, sick, or vacation and has definite limits on those. And, I do think that you have a change, a shift. And, I would be... I would think if I'm in HR, I'm having to go back and revisit our policies and procedures and approach, because there is so much attention being placed on this now. And obviously it's coming back into the workplace. That's how the question got posed to us, right? You know, how do I handle this? Is this the new thing? And like you said, Asha, is this a third category that we're now going to have to account for? it was interesting. I had some folks that didn't actually want us to share their comments, publicly, but a
Right.
few specific business owners had a real, kind of visceral response to this. Like, wait a second,
Mm,
is this something that we're kind of, giving the, is another thing we're going to have to, encounter and deal with? And they were almost upset about it, to the point, like, does this,
mm,
is this another thing we have to accommodate when we're accommodating so much? And it actually, one particular business leader actually said, look, we already let people have their cell phones. We let them spend an
right.
inordinate amount of time not working and doing things. And now this is yet another thing that we have to give up. And, I know that is not going to be well received by a lot of people, but it is yet nonetheless. At least on my side, I had at least 4 or 5 people who were like, look, I'm not sure I agree with this process. And,
Right.
you and I've talked about it. I do think that it constitutes a potentially new category. I do think HR
Hmm.
directors are going to have to look at this really closely, and they're going to have to sort of determine, are we going to call this out by what it is? And, counter to that point, I also had a business leader that said, well, then, when we sort of account for the time off, is there a stigma attached to taking that day off? And then is everybody, like, treating that employee differently when they come back from that mental health
Hmm.
day, or, however much time off
Right.
they may take? So what's your take or impression on that?
I mean, I think, it's a matter of how you cultivate the culture in your company.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, there has to be some trust. There has to be some confidence in your employees, in your team members, that when they're coming to you with this, that it's a real thing.
Yeah.
It's something that they need. I mean, you've got to be able to trust them. Also, I think the other thing is, and you see it in a lot of different nations around the world, where they are evaluating the work week. Where we've always had this traditional Monday to Friday, 8 to 5, 9 to 5, 9 to 6, whatever it is. Now, looking at the effectiveness of the number of hours that people are working in a day, that they still remain positive and productive and really efficient in their work. There are also ways to look at this. Is it something that we get more flexible in? And of course, it depends on the profession, depends on the company, what can be allowed. I mean, maybe if you don't have an industry that can't work outside those hours, maybe
Yeah.
that is something different. But I think we've got to look at the whole foundational structure of what's working, what is overwhelming people so much, what's burning out people. And some people are going to be able to withstand a lot more than others. But does that mean that we don't make room for those people and don't make allowances for those people? I think that we're having a major shift right now that's happening in our work culture.
I do too, and I actually think, there's an elephant in the room that we haven't yet touched on,
Hmm.
which is COVID, right? And COVID has had
Exactly.
a incredible strain on
Yep.
people's, mental health. That it's undermined a lot of confidence. People are still scared and worried about what the long term ramifications are,
Yep.
both, to your physical health, but also, to your potential income viability going forward, right? There are a
Hmm.
lot of companies that are consolidating,
Yeah.
trying to do a lot of things differently. There's hybrid work models that have come out of this that are, the landscape has shifted so dramatically over the last 20 plus months that it's kind of
Yeah.
hard to really recognize just what has occurred
Yeah.
because of this. And, I think that, not only the notoriety of these well-known athletes coming out and saying, "Hey, look, I need
Hmm.
to take a break. I need to do this for my own health." I do think that there is also this scenario where a lot of these, a lot of us, I mean, almost all of us have dealt
Hmm.
with this at some, within some realm or reason, and over the course of the pandemic. And that's, for me, I know I've gone through my days. I've had those,
Yep.
very uncertain times. I've been blue. I know that I'm not bringing the best part of myself to my work or my job. And so I think now, because of the pandemic, this stuff is really starting to come full circle for people to really, say, hey, look, how do we deal with this going forward? Because our work
Exactly.
environments are not likely to go back to the normal like they were pre-pandemic, at least not
Right.
anytime in the near future. And that is weighing very heavily on a lot of people.
It really is. And you know what? As a business owner, I mean, I know for myself too, I've had to take mental checkout days, in this whole time, especially because it's a lot that we're dealing with, and there's a lot of uncertainty. There's just a lot changing in such a short span of time. the way that we are operating in our businesses, the way that we're dealing with, people and all of those things. And sometimes, I mean, as a human being, it just gets too much.
Yeah.
And we just need to take a time out to kind of hit the reset button, rejuvenate, rest. And I don't feel like it should be looked at as, oh my God, and this is just my opinion, of course, that it's just another thing that we have to deal with. Because if you approach it that way, it's going to make it harder to actually accommodate and make it a workable situation for you as a business owner and
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
management team and the employees. If you approach
Absolutely.
it in that way, it's going to be a problem. It
For
doesn't need
sure.
to be.
Well, and John just had a really telling comment on LinkedIn. In a
Hmm.
global enterprise in global enterprise consulting, I know I've been expected to be available
Yeah.
7 to 7 Monday through Friday at a moment's notice. If I didn't respond on email or messaging in
Hmm.
seconds or minutes, my boss or others would call my
Yeah.
cell,
Oh
and with
my
an
God.
hour or two on weekends. So if they expect them
Yeah.
on our email almost 7, I mean, you don't get away from work. Actually, just I actually showed his comment out of sequence. Let me show his first one, but
Uh-huh.
he talks about the Great Recession. He talks about how companies are running more lean. There's more work and effort
Yep.
that's being piled up on all of us. Therefore, the work and performance ultimately
True.
requirements are shifting. There's that in its own right is causing a tremendous amount of stress for people,
Yes,
right?
it
I'm
is.
doing the work of 2 or 3 people as opposed to when we were back in the office and we had teams and the dynamics were different, right? So
Right.
I think that's a really powerful comment, John. Thank you for sharing that. Just to
Definitely.
to put that back in sequence, then he was talking about his role and what he's expected and how the challenges are and how that's causing, I'm sure him a fair amount of stress, right? So
Definitely.
that's really powerful. And so for me, COVID isn't all that different because I've been remote for 12 years. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean that's true for a lot of people. I hear
Yeah.
that a lot. But work performance and the expectations and sort of the quantifiable of what you do every
Hmm.
single day, those rules of those games have shifted dramatically. And I know
Right.
for a fact, many of the folks that I deal with or I coach, they're real nervous about it, and there's a lot more stress and anxiety centered
Yeah.
around it. Don't you see that as well, Asha?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's so many dynamics that are going on, and we are having, just in our societies
Yep.
anyway, we're having like these big divides get even bigger of, opinions about things and where you stand on certain situations. And as a business owner, you have to take that all into consideration, but also the impact that has mentally and emotionally on people is really. Yeah, and I agree with Cynthia. Her comment right there
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
is absolutely. It should be wellness time. It should be, the take care of me time, because, if we're not robots.
Yeah.
We are not robots. I mean, even that what John's comment was about the 24/7. I mean, it's not really normal if you really think about it, that we're
Right.
expected to be like on all the time. I mean, that wreaks havoc on your physical health
Yeah.
as well as mentally and emotionally. You can only do that for so long.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Yeah.
And, I think it's interesting because Cynthia brings up a really valid point.
Hmm.
Sick time, there's this stigma around sick time
Yes.
anyway, right?
Yes,
And
there is.
wellness time sort of encompasses, not only time that you need off to recover from an illness, physical illness, right? Or,
Right.
but it should encompass also the mental health day, right? So
Yep.
HR departments, when they reframe or could potentially reframe this differently, then you don't
Hmm.
feel like as an employee that you're actually having to come to your boss or to put in that time off request slip or call in that day to say, look, I'm just
Yeah.
having a really bad day, right? I sense that a lot of people still will attach a stigma to the fact that you need a timeout, you need a break, right?
Absolutely. I
So
mean,
yeah.
it's important. It's important to the balance, right? To the work-life balance. We all need, we need that downtime. And it is about our well-being. It is about being well, because only whenever we're well, we can perform better.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You and I talk to a lot of people that are in career transition, moving from
Hmm.
one job to another, and that's happening with a lot more regularity now. COVID, there's a lot
Yeah.
of articles that have been written as of late about, sort of the mass exodus of employees
Yes.
that are saying, hey, look, I used COVID as an opportunity to reassess where I am in my career, what I want to be
Right.
doing, where I want to be spending my time, who I want to be working for. And so a lot of
Hmm.
folks are finding that this time has been an opportunity for them to reassess and switch
Hmm.
jobs. And so we're talking to some of these folks about what that next chapter looks like career wise. I think one of the things that I think is important. I know you talk to your clients, I talk to my clients about is,
Mm-hmm.
as a potential employee, you're not just being interviewed. You need to be interviewing the company, and these are the
Absolutely.
things that are important to you
Yep.
about, what is the flexibility around time off, and how I use it or what I use it for is
Mm-hmm.
really my business. Whether it's sick time, personal time, wellness time, these are things that you should be getting out there and asking questions on. And then back to John's point, you want to know and understand what that culture is that you're potentially getting
Exactly.
into. And I've had clients go, well, how do I know that? Because HR is going to paint me a pretty picture, and the recruiter
Right.
tells me the greatest things, and
Yeah.
obviously there's that pressure economically to make the right decision. But finding people on LinkedIn or finding people other avenues to have conversations with people that are there to get the true gist of how that environment is, I think it's really important on the front end. So you do your
Yeah.
homework, you figure out what that organization is, and then ask yourself, is this environment going to be better for me from a mental perspective than my last one? And am
Yeah.
I improving my situation, or am I potentially getting into a potentially worse situation?
Right. No, that's true. And I think that figuring out what are the non-negotiables for you.
Yep.
If you're in that job transition, what is non-negotiable? Do you
Yep.
value your personal time? Do you value flexibility? And really, once you identify those, I agree. Whenever you go into your interview, you're interviewing them just as much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And Cynthia just posted a comment there. I'll let you take that one, Asha, if you want.
We tell employees that mental health is health, so sick time may be used for any health related purpose, including mental health. So employer, we want to support what. Yeah, that is awesome, Cynthia.
Yeah,
I think that that's great because you know what? To me, I agree with that. It's like health is health. We are much more than just our physical bodies. We've got our mental,
absolutely.
emotional, and spiritual selves, and you know what? Does not matter what it is. And I think also gets rid of that stigma
Mm-hmm.
like what you were talking about,
Yeah,
there's a stigma. Like if people say, "Oh, I need to take a mental health day," people automatically go to a certain thought process
yeah.
or a way to judge that. And I really like that. I agree with what Cynthia has said there. Thank you for sharing that. That's
Yeah, I do too. And I think, the
yeah,
stigma is the biggest thing, right? At the
yeah,
end of the day now, I think that when we talk about, Naomi Osaka and Simone Biles and what they did in such a public
right,
way, right?
yeah,
To say
yeah,
I'm taking a stand, and it may go against the grain, and they got certainly a lot of detractors that said, "Oh
yes,
my
they
gosh,
did.
you took somebody else's spot for competition, and
Yeah,
now you're giving that up, or you're making all these millions of dollars, and you feel like you're entitled to do this." There is
mm,
you're always going to have those folks that look at it from the negative side, right?
right,
At the end of the day, and I think that's what most people are fearful of in terms of the stigma, right? Because now if
mm-hmm,
I'm just having a rough time of it and I take time off, I'm worried about how my coworkers look at me now when I come back. I'm worried about what my
right,
boss thinks. Now, if I'm actually calling it out, and this is unfortunate because it is part of the stigma around mental illness. The issue with that is that, then people are like, well, can I really count on that person? Can I trust that
exactly,
they're going to be there? Or do I have to worry about something else happening? Because,
right,
mental crisis is something that you're always concerned about, right? And
right,
from a business or an organization perspective. And so now this brings up a whole nother layer of how do we have that conversation? And it's unfortunate
exactly,
because you only see the bad outcomes of mental illness, right?
right.
Publicized in the press or in the news. You don't, so there's that negative stigma that gets attached to it. So I think people are fearful for sharing it. And I think that
Yep,
employers kind of want to like turn a blind eye to it. But
yep.
we have to face it head on, because otherwise, what are our choices, right?
Exactly. I mean, I think that this is something that more and more people, as more and more people talk about it and share about it, we're going to get more
Yep.
comfortable talking about it. I mean, I think it's been there way before COVID. It's been there for a very, very long time, but we've just built a culture that doesn't allow for it, doesn't have any room for it. And now I think that that doorway is opening
I
to be open about it.
I agree. And I think
Yeah.
for leaders and companies out there, you have to look at those things, right? You
Yes,
have to start,
exactly.
you can't hide from it. You can't wait till the next set of regulations comes out,
Exactly.
by either your state or the federal government. You have to start saying, hey, look, we need to make accommodations for this. And we actually need to take
Right.
away that stigma. And,
Yeah.
I do think that, if you could frame that, I love Cynthia's suggestion about wellness because it's all
Yes.
encompassing. And I'm just taking a wellness day. And
Exactly.
I think ultimately at the end of the day, you don't feel like you're compelled to share anything that you don't feel comfortable sharing
Mm-hmm.
as an employee with your employer.
Right.
And the employer doesn't have to get into that uncomfortable conversation like, well, hey, what's going on? We
Exactly.
started the episode back with, with Mike saying, hey, look, if somebody says, hey, I need it, I want to give them some paid time off and give them a $50 gift card, go out to dinner, go out
Right.
to lunch, enjoy that day. I think that's very proactive thinking. I think that's really
Yes.
positive, but it still requires someone to come have that uncomfortable conversation to a certain degree. Jeff
Right.
just actually added a comment about through COVID, his company has had a number of spontaneous paid company holidays because
Okay.
workers are under a lot of stress. I love that. I think that's
I love that.
fantastic. I'm curious if everybody understands truly the value and the benefit of that, or if that becomes now an assumed, hey, are we going to do this next year if COVID's
Right.
still around? And it
Right.
becomes it's one of those situations where I hope the company can not only offer those, but then they can put some context around it, right? We recognize the stress and the frustration that you're going through right now in your
Right.
world, and we want to be there right there with you and kind of help you through it. So because you're not alone, we're all going through that process as well.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, Steve, do you think that it's going to be something that companies are going to need to rewrite in their policies?
I do. I think we're forced to do that, right? I think at the
Mm-hmm.
end of the day, you can't ignore the topic any longer. It
Right.
is there. It's out there. People, it's top of mind for for organizations to have to address it in some capacity.
Mm-hmm.
Quite honestly, even before we came on today, I was like, okay, so what does
Mm-hmm.
that look like, right?
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
I really hadn't actually contemplated that term that Cynthia Berg just used, which
Mm-hmm.
was wellness. But that's what it is. Hey, it's your time off. You do what you want with it, right?
Exactly.
And I think that if we can remove that uncomfortable situation of having to say, well, this is different than a sick day.
Right. Right.
This is something else.
Exactly.
I think people will feel more comfortable taking it. B, I think companies will be more than happy to not hear what that's about. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that, yes, are we ignoring it a little bit? Maybe. But I think if you're an organization that not only backs up, your policies and processes with,
Mm-hmm.
commitment to supporting your employees, I think that that's part of the culture, and that's why people want to work there, why they want to stay there.
Exactly.
I think it gives an opportunity. There's an invitation to do a whole lot more with this to make this an organization people want to be a part of.
Yeah. I agree.
Pat says we all need more lake time, and I agree, Pat.
Sounds good.
100%. And Pat actually has this huge spread out at Lake Travis. So if we need to take that mental or that wellness day, I should say, we should go to Pat's and she will teach us how to bass fish. I do know that for a fact. So John actually just posted my company offered counseling
Mm-hmm.
through the employee benefits. I think
Yeah.
that's awesome. That's
But
really, really
yeah,
good.
I exactly. I totally agree with the last part of that comment too. Who wants to do another Zoom call? I mean, it's great that they offer it, absolutely. But yeah, I agree with you. I mean, part of the overwhelm and exhaustion I have found for a lot of people too is spending these numerous hours behind the screen.
Oh, yes.
I
Yes.
mean, it's like it gets to a point where you just need to really take a technology detox, at some point.
Yeah, and I think
Mhm.
in the approach that you could take there from the counseling perspective would be, hey, look, can I just have a phone consult, with
Yes.
somebody? Can I have that conversation? Because I think really at the end of the day, yes, if we couldn't be face to face, being on screen to be able to read that person's body language to really see what they're maybe going through and how they're
Mhm.
struggling, I think that is a really important aspect of what a counselor's job is. However, it is fatigue and you don't want to have to
Exactly.
do another one, but part of just unburdening yourself with some of the stress and frustration and anxiety that has been we've all been experiencing through COVID, I think is incredibly healthy. And as a
Yes.
healthcare professional, Dr. Asha, that it's essential. And so even if you're just setting
Yeah.
up a call with that counselor to say, look, this is kind of how things are going. This is how my week is gone. This
Exactly.
is what I've done. I mean, we get it. We coach a lot of business executives. We work through a lot of these things. I mean, anxiety is permeating across the board on every level of every
It is.
organization, right? And
It is.
at least my clients, I know they deal with it daily. It's
Yeah.
manifesting in not sleeping. It's manifesting in a whole lot of uncertainty about the future and the viability of their businesses and their enterprises, where their money is coming from in the future. None of us are immune to this situation, but the more we can talk about it, the more that we feel comfortable to have that go-to resource, whether it be a counselor, a coach, a good friend, a family member. There is something cathartic about getting it out, right? Getting those thoughts out of
There
your
is.
head and being able to, sort of, channel that appropriately.
And definitely get another perspective, someone else's perspective on it that can help you, that can really help you.
Yeah.
It's,
This is a really good comment from
mhm.
Cynthia. They don't ask for, the specifics about why they're,
Okay.
why they're taking the time off. They just need to know, hey, what do we need to do to kind of, fill in, the gaps while you're out, right?
Hmm.
I think that that's phenomenal. And
I
I
think
think
that's
probably
great.
more organizations need to be about that, right? It
Yeah,
needs to, your health and your, that's your business. I mean, that's really,
exactly.
that really doesn't need to be up for, public consumption and or debate about whether, because I could see that too, right? Going the complete opposite. Like if we start adding, okay, a third category, hey, mental
Right.
health days. Now, not only are you going to, feel like you have to, sort of, kind of open yourself up to a vulnerable conversation to ask for that time off. But now,
Mhm.
what happens if you want to do another one? Right. Oh, yeah. Okay. Now here we go. This isn't, I can see the response and reaction that
Right.
people will have. And, I do get why we got some of those feedback comments from folks like, hey, is this just another way to get more days off? And I think, the issue's bigger than that. I think if you're looking at this
Exactly.
as, you're worried because somebody's screwing you out of an 8-hour shift. I mean, you got bigger problems than, worrying about
I
whether
know
they're gone.
there's some other problems going on there.
Yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, I mean that's definitely one of the concerns. Do you want to? We had some comments beforehand
Yeah.
that people had put before, as we publicized this episode. Maybe just want to get a few of those back out there, and then we've got a few more comments that are just rolling in. So this is
Yeah.
clearly a hot button issue for people.
So Jeff Hansen, who was just here a few minutes ago,
Yeah.
he wrote, so at my company, we don't have sick days or vacation days. We have an open policy on that. If work is not in the cards for you, take the time you need. Vacation, mental health, sick, it is just, too nice outside to work, whatever, just be professional about it and get your work done. Oh,
Yeah.
I totally agree with that,
Yeah.
Jeff. That's
That is really good.
that is definitely. Let's see, Melissa. I think a mental health day qualifies as a sick day if you are working so hard that you are at your limit and you need that day of rest so you can come back full force. I'm all for it.
Yeah, that's really
Yeah.
good.
And let's see, Rosalind shares from California. Technically, it's sick leave in California, and it could be for any family member or someone in the care of an employee. You could also set a separate employee assistance program that covers additional services and or day off accruals, just like PTO, etc.
Yeah. Oh, I like that.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
and John brought up another point. Our comments are coming in a little bit out of sequence. So to be
yeah.
clear, Asha's covering the comments that we had when we posted that we were going to be
Prior
talking
to
about
the
this. And we
yeah.
had several on LinkedIn, Facebook, and
Mm-hmm.
amazing how many times my phone rang this week about, hey, thank you for covering this. Thank you
Right,
for talking about it,
right.
because there are questions about it for sure. But John has left a comment on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
He was talking about juggling 4, 5, 6 different type of communication channels all at the same time. We got Slack, we got instant message, we got text, we got
Absolutely.
email. you know,
Yes.
yes, those things, all of those things weigh on you. And John
Yeah.
mentioned earlier in the episode that we were, or earlier in our conversation, that we were, we are, employers have put more pressure on us, right? Because we're doing more because, we've either had to cut back staff or, we're doing the work or effort of multiple people and that stuff just weighs on you. And then if you're just like constantly, our good friend Mara Thomas always talks about attention management and how incredibly important that is. But just having a few extra things buzzing and, vibrating and dinging and going off can just absolutely weigh on you at some, at some juncture for sure. So that has a huge tendency. And so that's, that also is causing some of this, this stress for folks.
It does. And you know what, Steve, from a comment before, I think it was Cynthia, if I'm not mistaken, and back to what John was talking about, this concept of the being on 24/7 and people needing, your boss needing to know where you are at all times and calling you. And if you're not responding, that I think that we've got to set healthy boundaries there. There have to be healthy boundaries, because if not, we are part of the problem as business owners or managers, whatever. We're actually adding to the stress and overwhelm that our employees or people that we're managing could be facing.
Yeah. Like, for my software company, we have things that happen after hours occasionally that, I generally will tell my folks, hey, look, I don't expect you to be on Slack, respond to my emails. I am one of those entrepreneurs where my brain never stops. And so I have to tell people that, hey, look, you may get an email from me at 2 a.m. in the morning because I'm probably at the office, right? And that does not mean that at 2:05 I'm expecting a response. 2:07, yeah, okay, no, just totally kidding. You have to set that groundwork and that and those expectations and say, look, I have so much going on that I get it out of my brain when I need it, and at the time that it happens. But you are only required to respond and react, during the time that you're working, right?
Right.
And there are occasions where we have to work after hours or we have to do other things. And I try my darndest to say, hey, look, you guys did a migration last night. Everybody off at 3, right? Just get the hell out of here. It's a nice day. Go enjoy. But, I do think that as an employer, it's important to set that expectation and have that as part of that culture piece that you're bringing to the table. But on the flip side of that, I think as an employee, if you feel like you're being abused and that time is being, less and less of your free time is happening because you got work stuff that runs until 10 o'clock at night, I think you have to have an open and honest conversation with your boss at that point and say, hey, look, let me ask you what the expectations are here. Cause I'm working 8 to 5 and then I've got time with my family and I need some time just to decompress from just the day-to-day stress. But if I feel like you're waiting on a response at 11 o'clock at night, or I have to get in at 6 to get something done before you hit the door at 8 o'clock, I feel like that could be a problem. So I'm interpreting it that way, and I could completely be wrong.
Right.
And so I just want to bring it up and talk to you. And what's nice about that is you will know pretty instantly what the expectation is of that boss and whether that guy is a tool or a gal, as as it were, as well. And just say, look, that is some place I don't want to work. Because if the expectation is, I expect you to have that done for me and ready when I walk in, well, maybe I need to go find a new job.
Right. No, that's true. And I think that clear communication of what you expect, I think that is really, really important. Because Steve, you know what, some entrepreneurs, just like yourself, even myself too, it's like when an idea comes or whatever, it's going in an email and it doesn't matter what time it is. It doesn't matter, but I clearly
don't I know this?
Expect people. Yeah, you have experienced that for me several times. Of course, we have our time difference, of course, but
you're the future. I'm the past. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, I don't expect people to hold, to do the same thing, of course. And I make that very, very clear. It's like, yes, you know what? It's not a problem. Like, don't, but you have to be clear about it.
But you do have to be clear and you have to set that expectation. You're absolutely right. Christina Brewer just told us we were great. This is such an important topic. Christina happened to be in Texas, didn't even stop by to say hello, I try not to be angry with her at all and show it.
Christina, you're gonna have to do laps or something.
So those of you that don't know, Christina Brewer used to play soccer for me way back when. She owes me, I don't know, at this point maybe 474 laps. The total continues to increase, and now more so after finding out she was in Texas. Did not say hi. So anyway, John says a lot comes down to management style. and most piling up work and pestering staff to pay attention to the squeaky wheel. I think remote demands more of managers, and many can't adapt. I do think that's great. Actually, Jeff's comment is tied to that too. When dealing with a global workforce team, sometimes things will fall outside normal working hours.
Absolutely.
You do know that. I mean,
Yes.
Asha is in the Netherlands. I'm in Austin, Texas. We have right now, an 8-hour difference?
7 hours.
7 hours.
7 hours. Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to be changing that soon, and that'll be a whole different world for me to figure out. But anyway, there are expectations, but as you go into that job, that's something that you know and expect, right? And so there are certain things that you're going to have to take care of and do, obviously, but that does come down to, understanding and, like Asha said, setting boundaries for what, you can and cannot do. And it's unfortunate, because if you're working with somebody that's, 14-hour time difference from you, I mean, that could be a real challenge, and that will weigh on you as well. I know I've worked with companies that I've done trainings and coaching for their, top level executives, and that weighs on them significantly because they feel like they never get any time off.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. I mean, that is something, in our globalization, we're working across the borders, we're working across the time zones, but that ahead of time. And as long as you can communicate and have some sort of agreement of, okay, this is acceptable, this is not acceptable, I think that that's absolutely fine.
Yeah, absolutely. So John's got a comment up there. You want to take that one?
Let's see. My experience consulting, there's little to no prioritization for everything. Yeah. Yeah. And I think, what, John, that's great about, what the priorities are. I think that that's also something that you can go to your boss, to the managers, to the execs, and say, listen, okay, let's just like really hammer this out. What are the priorities here? Yes, of course, billing is always there, but what are their other priorities? And then just have kind of a systematic approach of how you handle that. And I know that that's not always easy, but I think if you have that open conversation with them and get it very, very clear in black and white, then you can help manage that more so.
Yeah, I think so. And I also think when you get some level of organization in your day and your approach to that, I think those things tend to be, a situation where you at least have some semblance of control. And a lot of times you'll be able to express to your boss, here's how I'm handling things as they come in. Now, I know you don't expect me to be on call 24/7. I know you'd like me to be, but that's just not realistic, right? And so here's how I'm divvying up my work, and I want to make sure that I'm providing the level of visibility or accountability that I need to relative to what we're doing and how we're executing and whatever my job or role responsibility might be. If you see ways that I can improve that or do it differently within the confines of when I'm available and can work. But I have to step away, because if I am constantly feeling like I'm bombarded with this job, I'm not bringing the best part of myself there. I might initially, but my fuel tank is going to run very low very quickly, right?
Yes, exactly.
And you're right, John. Project managers and global consulting are with meetings and at any and all hours, all day. That's true. It's a high stress, high risk and reward environment. I get it.
Right.
It's one of those things. If you feel like it, at the end of the day, it's kind of funny. I've said this before. When you're on your deathbed, nobody's going to say, man, I wish I took that last meeting.
No.
If I could have made that one more sales call, at the end of the day, you sometimes have to weigh and balance your professional priorities with your personal priorities. And I get that that's a very high stress, lot going on kind of job. And at some point, and I've told people this too, that certain jobs are a young person's job, right? They got the energy, the enthusiasm, the excitement to do it. I'm old now. I don't want to work that hard. I don't want to push myself that because I recognize now, actually at 50, how much I pushed myself and how much of my own life I missed, right? My kids growing up, certain things. But as an entrepreneur, that's part of my lifestyle. That's what I did so that I could be at certain things and certain activities, but I still missed a lot because I felt compelled to be on beck and call for a prospect or a client or whatever. And that weighed on me for a long time. Actually, I finally got to a point where I just said, I'm done, right? I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to be on, at somebody else's beck and call. And then I just started setting expectations. Hey, look, if that's what you want as a client or prospect, no problem. You might want to find somebody else to work with because I knock off at 5:30 and I'm not available.
Yep.
And no, I'm not coming in on Saturday to work on your project, or I'm not going to be able to just, stop my life for your purposes, and if that means that maybe I don't make as much revenue, well, that's what I'm agreeing to do, right? I'm signing up for that.
It's funny now, what are your priorities? What's important? That's what I was going to say, Christina. I'm like, 50. When did that happen, Steve?
You're not except 50. For her, she's actually saying, oh, you're only 50?
Oh.
Yeah, I know exactly what that double meaning is, right? John also said, the reward is money sometimes until you burn out. I wasn't a PM, but I've seen it a lot. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Money's great. But if you don't have the energy or the mental strength to do anything with it once you've got it, then who gives a crap, right?
Exactly. I mean, if you're ruining your health, what are you going to do with all that money? You can't buy your health back.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. He said lots of companies don't like to hear I prefer to work smarter, not harder. Run away from those companies.
I agree. Yes. Run away. Run far away.
Run, Forrest, run. So.
Yes.
So, as we're kind of getting close to the end, we've got a few minutes left in this live stream. We apologize that we started a little bit late. We had some small audio issues and problems, but we seemed to get those worked out. Not exactly sure why, but technology is not always our friend. Causes a fair amount of mental stress on this end, I can tell you for sure. But, I want to tell people that I am... This is a serious topic, and it's a serious situation that, Dr. Asha deals with this a lot because she's a healthcare professional, and she recognizes, that this is things that we need to be more outward in talking about because it's so critical, especially if you're a business owner, business leader. You need to have these conversations, and you need to create environments to make it safe for people to have that, to request that wellness day off, right? And, or if they are dealing with something that they know that they can't handle on their own, if you just tell your employees, hey, look, you can tell me anything. It's not going to affect how I view you or look at you because we're people first. You will build trust with your employees. You will find a way to have conversations, and you'll become somebody that they know that they can depend on. Obviously, if you're going to be the evil boss and use that against them, then, karma will get your ass. I mean, I'll just say that right now, but, don't do that for, don't be that person. Be someone that's willing to contribute and help people, when and where they need it. Exactly. And I think if you're outward about it, you're out from behind your desk, you're conversational, your people, you can identify when people are struggling or they're a little bit stressed. And those are the times and opportunities to be like, hey, look, you need to get out of here. Like, it's 1:00 on a Friday. We're not getting all this stuff done by 5:00. Who cares? It'll be here on Monday. Go take, the rest of the afternoon off, go have a beer, call your significant other, go for a walk, go for a hike, that kind of thing. I think there needs to be more of that. And I think leadership needs to wake up to the fact that, you're demanding productivity, you're demanding output, but at the end of the day, if you're burning your people out, you're not going to get there anyway.
No, exactly. I mean, what really being considered and putting yourself in their shoes as well, because I think that really that piece of compassion to be able to think about, gosh, I wonder what it's like for that person. Being aware of that as a leader, as a manager is super important.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Christina says, no, she can't believe I'm 50 already. Yep. That's what happens. I just get older. It'll happen to all of us. I promise you. Yeah, John, when I worked for Pervasive, the HR VP and Operations General Counsel told me we hire athletes and run them until they tire. It's our philosophy rather than developing employees. Believe it or not, Pervasive came calling and tried to recruit me. Whoa. And I had a similar conversation. And I'm like, yeah, well, I only run when chased. So see you later. Unlike Christina, who's going to run when I see her next for her lap. But that's an example, right, of an organization that doesn't get it. And then they wonder why for many years it was a revolving door of talent coming and going. And that just blows me away. But now that's yet another organization that will not hire me to come in and speak ever. Thanks, John. Thank you, John. I appreciate that too. Believe it or not, Asha, you met John way back in the Bootstrap days. So,
I was
if the
just, you
name is
know what?
familiar, yeah.
What I know, I was trying to place like how long that was a really long time ago. Yes, I do remember him.
Yep, yep. And Christine says, you need to explain all of this to the military. My COO for my software company is ex-military. I have to explain it to him all the time. So, but he gets it. He understands it. But you're
Yeah,
absolutely right there. There is that is no lie. That's for sure.
that's true.
So, John says that was 1987 to 2004. What was 1987 to
What was like?
2004? Oh, 97. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. The bootstrap days where we were all hanging out. Yeah. Not only did we work all day, like, madmen building our businesses, but then we decided we're going to go listen to other people that already made it and had, no worries in the world. But at least there was beer. I mean, let's face it. That was all right. At the end of the day, I mean, one of the things that I think that resonated with this topic, and hopefully people got from this, is that that there is an opportunity for us to approach this topic differently, and I think it's not something you've said it before, Asha, and I kind of want to go back just really quickly to cover this because. You have said in the past that when you break your arm, there's a physical element that people see and like, damn, you broke your arm. Well,
Right.
mental health is treated differently. What do you mean by that? And what are the challenges around that for people that are maybe struggling out there with
Well,
their mental health?
yeah, I mean, it's something that you can't see necessarily. And some people are really good at hiding it. They're
Yeah.
really good at hiding how they're really feeling or what they're thinking or what's going on in them. We cannot see in someone's head, really. So a lot of times people don't take them for real. Like people are like, oh gosh, I'm feeling burnt out or I'm overwhelmed. And people are like, yeah, well, just get over it, just because they don't see it. They don't see inside someone's mind what it's doing. I mean, somebody could be sitting there with enormous amount of anxiety, just totally
Yeah.
dreading coming to work every day, feeling, just completely out of sorts, and you just don't see it. And there's this whole stigma of it that we're just kind of making it up. Oh, just tough it out. We have these phrases. We have these phrases that we actually say to people. Oh, just tough it out. Don't be this, don't be that. And, it's all fun and games until it's not, because
Yeah.
there are a lot of people suffering
Yeah.
with things that are going on. And we've got to really be okay with talking about it and saying, listen, you know what? Yes, I have it together. I've been able to figure out how to keep it together, but I'm really inside falling apart.
Yeah.
I need help
Absolutely.
or I need to stop.
Well, I had a friend that's in HR that actually, when she
Hmm.
saw us post this topic, she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna tune in." I haven't actually seen her on
Right.
here, but she's like, "This is dangerous territory for you guys to be covering because
Yeah.
there's so much uncertainty. There's a stigma around it. We talked about that earlier,
Right.
and her CEO doesn't want to address it at all, and
Right.
she knows that they need to. They know there is a real need for them to hit this head on and
Yeah.
come up with some concrete approaches to how they're going to handle it. Hopefully she'll catch this on the replay and get Cynthia's suggestion of wellness days as opposed to
Yes.
mental health days.
Yes.
I think that could be, to a little bit less triggering for people in terms of the use of it or requesting it, et cetera.
Hmm.
But, it's funny because, I think more and more, uh, it's unfortunate we don't have more HR people on or more executive teams
Right.
on right now because I'd be curious about their feedback and input on this topic. But I think it's one that people are uncomfortable discussing and they
Yeah.
get challenged with discussing because they don't know exactly how they should handle it, what they should do and about it.
Right.
And I guess this is the purpose of today's conversation is to get that ball rolling, to start doing that, to
Yeah.
get it out there in the ether so that you can start having conversations, start talking to other colleagues, other folks in your industry or outside your industry and say, how are you guys dealing with this?
Exactly.
How are you framing these conversations? How are you making it easier on the employer and the employee relationship
Hmm.
to evolve in this space? I think that's super key.
I think it is too. I mean, it's the reason why we decided to take this live and to be able to talk
Yeah.
about it openly. I mean, when this client was coming to me and dealing with it, I thought, more people are dealing with it. It's
Yeah.
time that we break it open and talk about it. And fact of the matter is, there are going to be some companies that are never going to address it ever,
Yeah.
and that's okay. That's their choice. But then you need to ask yourself as an employee, do I want to be there or not? Is this a good fit for me or not?
I agree.
So,
Yeah. I mean, on the front end for sure, but John makes a really valid point. If you're really trying
yeah,
to enter into this conversation, but you just don't want to dive in,
yep,
with both feet, one of the best ways to do it might be to actually create a survey. And maybe that one
absolutely.
question survey could be just this. It could be, hey, how much how much of a toll does this job take on your mental health?
Exactly.
And just leave it blind, no
Yeah,
responses, and just see what you get. Because,
yeah, that's a good idea.
I think if you could actually ask your folks that kind of question, you would actually get some very telling data points. And
I
if
think
you
so
know
too.
that there are things that are piling up, number one, like you said, John, earlier, right? How many channels of communication are we requiring people to be tuned
Yeah,
into and monitoring continually? What are the response time expectations and requirements? What are our legitimate hours? When are these things going outside of that tolerance that are creating and causing more stress and frustration for people? Because, here's the thing is leaders, if you don't know that the troops are restless and they're anxious and that's causing
mm-hmm.
some major angst, you're going to end up having a talent suck anyway, because they're going to
Yes,
eventually leave. They're going to go find a company that's going to be more accommodating or more in tune with what's happening. And they'll never leave you at the best time, right? They'll leave you
right.
at the most inopportune time. So I feel like this is a topic that you've got to get your hands around, both hands around, and really start, coming out of the shadows with it, having
Yeah,
conversations, and then stop thinking about the time and the cost trade and start looking
exactly.
at it for, hey, look, the only reason this damn organization exists, there I go
Yeah.
again, damn's probably going to get us banned. Sorry. That's 4 times I did it. Dang it. But this thing is not possible. Whatever product or service we have is
Yeah.
not possible without our people. And
I
if
mean,
they're,
think of it as in a
yeah,
human currency, Steve. It's
yes,
human Think of it as a human currency, and we've got to shift. We've got to shift the perspective a bit.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, so this has been, I mean, we could talk for hours on this, but
Yeah.
we're already over time. We normally don't run past the top of the hour, but apparently we were having some audio issues, so we had to re-engage our broadcast today. So hopefully it hit all of our platforms. We definitely appreciate everybody participating today, the great comments. You guys are amazing. Thank you for tuning in and watching this show. And this is a live stream that we do, Conversations with Asha and Steve. This was all born out of our podcast, so this will be available in a few hours on our podcast
Mm-hmm.
platforms. Wherever you tune in for your listening pleasure, Apple Podcasts, we'd certainly appreciate a review on there. That brings us up in the rankings there for people to discover the great, amazing things that Asha says, and some occasionally okay things I say. If you happen to be catching this on the flip flop, the replay, YouTube, definitely hit a subscribe or like on Conversations with Asha and Steve on our YouTube channel. And Asha, how else can people get a hold of us to talk about either this topic, what they
Mm-hmm.
got from it, what they took from it, what they thought maybe we missed, and ultimately what other topics they'd like us to cover in the future?
So definitely you can contact us on our website, conversationswithashansteve.com, or go to our Facebook page. We've got a group created there, and we would love to hear from you. I mean, you know what? This conversation is definitely not over. Be sure to leave your comments. Steve and I always go back and respond to comments and respond to input from our listeners. So thank you so much for joining us today. And this has really been a very enlightening conversation, and I really appreciate everybody's participation today.
Absolutely. And hey, one thing before we
Yeah.
go, I want to make sure that everybody remembers that
Oh,
Asha's book is now available, The Chrysalis Awakening. You can
yes.
learn more about that at chrysalisawakeningbook.com. Now on Audible, actually
Now
officially
and
just
on.
this week. We are
Yes.
so excited and pumped.
Yes.
If we were on our other platform, I'd throw some like confetti in the air, but I don't know how to do it on this platform. So, woohoo!
There you go.
But no, this book is actually, if you are definitely struggling with, where you are right now in your life or your career, this book is perfectly timed to help you start asking 5 important questions that are going to help you rethink where you are, what you're doing. I highly encourage you to go there. And if you go to that website, chrysalisawakeningbook.com, you're going to see some of the videos that Asha has done to give you a little bit more insight about the motivation behind the book, what
Mm-hmm.
she intended for readers to take away from it. And I'm on my 3rd cycle with this book. And each time I've read it, I have, just learned a little bit more about myself. So I'm very, very proud of her. And And now you can hear her beautiful voice on Audible, which is fantastic. So I think that's great. So Asha, thanks for this conversation. Next week, we will not be live, but we will be posting a video, an important video that we recorded earlier today. Hopefully the audio works now that we got to go back and check it. Anyway, it's an important conversation about the impact of COVID and what it's done kind of to all of us during these uncertain times, and ultimately kind of what we've learned from this process. And so it is a conversation not only between Dr. Asha and myself, but Mark Schwartz, who was on our episode a couple of weeks ago, who's our editor for both of our books. He actually kind of leads this conversation, and it was a fun one to have. It'll be up next week at 8 a.m. Central Standard Time, 3 p.m. Central European Time. I think that's what CET stands for.
That's correct.
Awesome. Sweet. I didn't even look that up. I just guessed. At the end of the day, that'll be up there. It's an enlightening conversation. We ask you to tune in. Both Asha and I are traveling next week, so we've got business commitments, so we won't be live streaming, but that's an important episode that you're going to want to be sure to tune in for and check out. So until then, we definitely appreciate you joining us. Asha, have an amazing rest of your day.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve. Have a good weekend to everybody.
All right. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.